The metallic voice announcing flight departures echoed through Terminal 3 as I stood there, frozen, staring at the empty space where Harrison had been standing just moments ago. My wedding dress was still carefully packed in its garment bag, waiting to be worn again for the romantic photos we'd planned to take at sunset on the beaches of Mauritius. "Just need to take this call, honey. Won't be a minute," he'd said, squeezing my hand before walking away. That was 45 minutes ago. Our flight would begin boarding in 15 minutes, and my calls were going straight to voicemail. I'd spent the morning in a daze of happiness, barely able to believe that after yesterday's perfect wedding, we were about to embark on our 3-week honeymoon. The weight of the new platinum band on my finger still felt foreign, exciting. Harrison had been unusually quiet during the drive to the airport, but I'd attributed it to exhaustion from the wedding festivities. Now, standing alone amid the bustle of travelers, a creeping sense of dread began to overtake me. A text message finally lit up my phone screen. My hands trembled as I read it. "I'm sorry. I can't do this. Don't try to find me." The ground seemed to tilt beneath my feet. A nearby couple shot concerned glances my way as I gripped the handle of my carry-on luggage for support. The same luggage Harrison and I had picked out together, matching sets in deep burgundy, because he'd said it would be easy to spot. Final boarding call for flight BA-269 to Mauritius. The announcement cut through my thoughts. Our flight. The one we'd spent months planning. The perfect start to our perfect life together. I don't know what possessed me in that moment. Maybe shock, maybe defiance, or maybe just the absolute refusal to let this be my reality. But I straightened my spine and walked to the gate. Our tickets were already paid for. Our resort was booked. And somehow, the thought of returning to our empty apartment, of facing our families and friends with the news that my marriage had lasted less than 24 hours, was more unbearable than boarding that plane alone. The flight attendant's expression shifted from professional cheerfulness to concern when she saw my tear-stained face and the empty seat beside me. "Everything all right, ma'am?" I managed a weak nod, unable to voice the truth, that I was embarking on my honeymoon alone, that my husband of exactly 1 day had vanished into thin air, that my entire world had imploded in the space of an hour. As the plane took off, I stared out the window at London shrinking below me, my mind racing through every moment of the past year. Harrison and I had met at a charity gala. He'd been charming, successful, seemingly perfect. Our whirlwind romance had felt like a fairy tale, and everyone had said we were made for each other. The warning signs had been there, I realized now. The calls he'd taken private, the mysterious work meetings, the way he'd sometimes grow distant before showering me with affection again, but nothing could have prepared me for this. As the plane crossed over the English Channel, my phone regained signal momentarily and another message came through. This one made my blood run cold. "Check your joint account." I fumbled with the in-flight Wi-Fi, hands shaking as I logged into our banking app. The account we'd opened together 3 months ago, the one where we'd been saving for our future home, showed a balance of 0. Every penny, including my inheritance from my grandmother, was gone. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't just abandoned. I was alone, betrayed, and financially devastated at 35,000 feet, heading to a luxury resort in Mauritius that suddenly felt like a cruel joke. I ordered a gin and tonic, my first alcoholic drink since the wedding toast yesterday. As I sipped it, trying to steady my nerves, I made a decision. This story wasn't going to end here, at this moment of absolute devastation. I didn't know how yet, but I was going to find out the truth about Harrison, about why he'd done this, about who he really was. The man sitting across the aisle glanced at me sympathetically as I wiped away another tear. If only he knew that this was just the beginning of a story that would prove far more complex and devastating than even I could imagine at that moment. Stepping into the humid Mauritius air felt surreal. The paradise I'd dreamed of for months now seemed to mock me with its perfection. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, and happy couples strolled hand in hand through the airport terminal. I clutched my phone, staring at the screen that displayed a string of increasingly disturbing emails. The first had arrived during my flight, a message from my best friend Amber. "Sienna, call me as soon as you land. Something's wrong. Harrison's sister Annabelle just called me in tears." I'd met Annabelle only 3 times during my year-long relationship with Harrison. She lived in Manchester and always seemed oddly reserved around me, though Harrison had assured me it was just her personality. Now I wondered if she'd known something all along. The hotel's driver held up a sign reading, Mr. and Mrs. Walker, and I nearly broke down again. That name, my brand new married name, now felt like a stranger's. I approached him anyway, explaining that it would just be me. His practiced smile never wavered, but I saw the pity in his eyes. "Your husband will be joining later?" he asked politely as we drove along the coastal road. "No," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. "No, he won't." In my luxury ocean view suite, I finally gathered the courage to call Amber. Her voice was tight with concern when she answered. "Sienna, I don't know how to tell you this, but Annabelle says Harrison's been married before." My legs gave out, and I sank onto the king-sized bed that should have been our honeymoon sanctuary. "What do you mean before?" "He told me he'd never even been engaged. 3 years ago," Amber continued, her voice shaking, "to a woman named Beatrice in Manchester. Annabelle says. She says he did the same thing to her. He disappeared right after the wedding. Beatrice's family lost everything." The room spun around me. I thought about the perfectly crafted story Harrison had told me about growing up in London, about his successful consulting business, about his dreams of starting a family. How much of it had been real? With trembling fingers, I opened my laptop and started searching. It took hours, but slowly, horrifyingly, the truth began to emerge. Harrison Walker wasn't even his real name. I found a newspaper article from Manchester dated 3 years ago. "Local businessman disappears after wedding, leaving trail of debt." The photo showed a woman named Beatrice Patterson outside a courthouse, her face drawn with the same shock and devastation I now felt. But that wasn't all. As I dug deeper, I found more. 2 years before Beatrice, there had been another woman in Edinburgh. Same pattern. Whirlwind romance, lavish wedding, disappearance. Different name, same man, my Harrison. Or whatever his real name was. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. My heart stopped when I opened it. "I know what Harrison did to you. I'm Beatrice. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long time, the sound of waves crashing outside my window providing an eerily peaceful backdrop to my inner turmoil. The man I'd married, the man I'd thought I knew better than anyone, was a stranger. A con artist who had perfected his craft through multiple performances, but something didn't add up. The timing of his disappearance, the way he'd ensured we checked our luggage before he vanished. It felt different from the other cases I was reading about. And why Mauritius? Why go through with planning such an elaborate honeymoon if he was just going to disappear? I was about to reply to Beatrice's message when my phone lit up with another call, this time from Harrison's number. My heart pounded as I answered, but instead of his voice, I heard rapid breathing and what sounded like someone running. "Sienna," he gasped, his voice tight with what sounded like genuine fear. "Don't trust anything you're about to hear about me. I can explain everything, but I need you to do exactly what I say. Are you alone?" Before I could answer, I heard a commotion in the background, followed by the sound of breaking glass. The call cut off abruptly. I sat there in my honeymoon suite, the setting sun casting long shadows across the room, holding my phone and trying to make sense of what was happening. Was this another manipulation? A new twist in his con game? Or was there something bigger going on? Something I couldn't yet understand? The next message I received wasn't from Harrison or Beatrice, but from Annabelle. "Whatever you do, don't tell anyone where you are. Your life might depend on it." I spent that first night in Mauritius, alternating between tears and frantic research. Beatrice had agreed to a video call, and as I waited for the appointed time, I paced the beautiful beachfront suite that now felt more like a luxurious prison. The sound of happy holidaymakers drifted up from the pool below, their joy a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. When Beatrice's face appeared on my screen, I felt a jolt of recognition, not because we looked alike, but because I saw in her eyes the same haunted look I'd seen in my own reflection that morning. "I'm so sorry this happened to you," she began, her Manchester accent soft and sympathetic. I know exactly what you're feeling right now. But as she began telling her story, I realized something wasn't adding up. The Harrison she described, a brash, materialistic man who swept her off her feet with expensive gifts and grand gestures, seemed like a completely different person from the quiet, thoughtful man I'd fallen in love with. He was always showing off his wealth, Beatrice continued, taking me to the finest restaurants, buying me jewelry. Is that how he was with you? I shook my head slowly. No. Harrison, my Harrison. He was different. We usually cooked at home. He preferred intimate dinners to fancy restaurants. The only expensive gift he ever gave me was my engagement ring. Beatrice's expression changed, a flash of confusion crossing her face. That's strange. Did he ever mention someone named Blake? The name hit me like a physical blow. Blake had been Harrison's best friend, the best man at our wedding. He'd given a heartfelt speech about their 15-year friendship, about how Harrison had helped him through his divorce 3 years ago. But when I mentioned this to Beatrice, she leaned forward, her face pale. Sienna, I need you to listen carefully, she said. The man in this photo, is this your Harrison? She held up her phone to the camera, showing me her wedding photo. My hands started shaking. The man standing beside Beatrice in her wedding photo was Blake. That's not... I started, then stopped, my mind racing. I quickly pulled up my own wedding photos on my laptop, turning the screen to show Beatrice. This is my Harrison. Beatrice's sharp intake of breath told me something was very wrong. Sienna, that man, that's Logan. He was Blake's business partner. He disappeared the same time Blake did, along with all our money. The room seemed to tilt around me. I thought about all the times Harrison had taken calls from Blake in private, about the mysterious business meetings, about how he'd insisted on handling all our wedding preparations himself. There's more, Beatrice said, her voice trembling. After everything happened, I did some digging. Blake and Logan, they weren't just con men. They were involved in something bigger, something dangerous. And Sienna, I think they might have finally crossed the wrong people. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Annabelle. Don't believe everything Beatrice tells you. Some of it is true, but not all. Harrison loved you. That part was real. He's in trouble, Sienna. Real trouble. And you might be too. I looked back at Beatrice on my screen, studying her face. Was she telling me the whole truth? And if Harrison, or Logan, or whoever he really was, had truly loved me, why disappear now? Why take my money? Beatrice, I said slowly. The day before the wedding, Harrison asked me to transfer all our savings to a new account. He said it was for house hunting when we got back. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Beatrice's expression darkened. Did he tell you which bank? Swiss United, I replied. Why? Because that's not a real bank, Sienna. But that name? I've heard it before. It's connected to someone very dangerous. Someone Blake and Logan were terrified of. Before she could continue, my room phone rang, making me jump. It was the front desk. Mrs. Walker, there's a gentleman here asking for you. He says he's your brother-in-law. My heart started racing. I don't have a brother-in-law. There was a pause on the line. He's quite insistent, madam. He says it's about your husband's safety. I looked back at Beatrice on my laptop screen. She had gone pale. Sienna, she whispered, get out of there, now. I grabbed my passport and phone, shoving them into my purse. What about my luggage? Leave it, Beatrice said urgently. There's a back entrance through the service area. I stayed at that resort once. Get to the beach. There are always people there. I'm calling someone I know in Mauritius right now. He'll help you. As I slipped out of my room, I heard the elevator ding at the end of the hall. Male voices emerged, speaking in low, urgent tones. I turned and ran the other way, toward the service entrance, my heart pounding. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Harrison. Whatever you do, don't let them find you. I'm sorry for everything, but this isn't what you think. Trust no one until I can reach you again. As I pushed through the service door and into the humid evening air, I realized I was now running from something, but I had no idea what. All I knew was that my honeymoon had turned into something far more terrifying than just a story of betrayal. The sound of footsteps behind me sent me sprinting toward the crowded beach, my wedding ring catching the last rays of the setting sun. I had a feeling I was about to discover exactly why Harrison had chosen to disappear, and why he might have been trying to protect me by doing so. The beach was crowded with tourists enjoying the sunset, completely unaware of my racing heart and trembling hands. I forced myself to walk casually, fighting the urge to run as I heard voices behind me speaking in hushed tones. My white sundress, which I'd changed into after arriving at the resort, now felt painfully conspicuous against the darkening sky. My phone vibrated. A message from Beatrice with a location pin. Go to Le Petit Café in Grand Bay. Ask for Antoine. He's expecting you. I flagged down a taxi, constantly checking over my shoulder. The driver, an elderly man with kind eyes, must have sensed my distress. Everything okay, madame? Yes, I lied, then made a split-second decision. Actually, no. I think I'm being followed. Could you? He nodded before I could finish, pulling away from the resort with surprising speed. In the side mirror, I saw two men in dark suits emerge onto the street, looking around frantically. As we drove along the coastal road, my phone lit up with a series of messages that made my blood run cold. They were from Annabelle. Sienna, I need to tell you the truth about Harrison. About everything. He's my brother, but Logan isn't his real name either. We're both in witness protection. Or we were, until 3 days ago. My hands shook as I read the next message. The business with Blake. It wasn't what you think. Harrison was working undercover. He's been helping build a case against a major international crime syndicate. Blake was his way in. But something went wrong. The taxi wound through narrow streets lined with colorful buildings, finally pulling up outside a small cafe with peeling blue paint. The driver refused to take my money. Stay safe, madame, he said softly. Inside Le Petit Café, a man I assumed was Antoine led me to a back room that looked like it hadn't been redecorated since the 1970s. The ancient ceiling fan squeaked as it turned, and the air smelled of old coffee and secrets. Beatrice called me, he said in heavily accented English. She told me about Harrison. Or should I say, Agent Logan Morrison. The name hit me like a physical blow. Agent? My mind raced back through every moment of our relationship, searching for signs I might have missed. 3 years ago, Antoine continued, your husband helped us track down one of the biggest financial criminals in Europe. Blake was his partner in the operation. They got close to the target, but something went wrong. The target figured out they were undercover agents. Blake disappeared. We thought he was dead. I sank into a worn leather chair, my legs no longer able to support me. But the wedding? Taking my money? Running away? Antoine's face softened. The money isn't gone, Sienna. It's being held in a secure account. Harrison transferred it to protect it, and you. 2 days before your wedding, we received intelligence that Blake had resurfaced. He's working for them now, and he knows everything about you and Harrison. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Harrison. Sienna, if you're reading this, you're hopefully with Antoine by now. I'm sorry for leaving you like that, but they were watching the airport. They would have grabbed both of us if I hadn't created a diversion. Everything I told you about my feelings for you was real, but almost everything else was a lie to protect you. Tears blurred my vision as I read his next message. The men following you aren't police or agents. They work for someone much worse. Someone who's been using banks and businesses across Europe to fund terrorist operations. We were close to exposing everything when Blake betrayed us. Antoine placed a burner phone on the table between us. Harrison will contact you on this. But first, you need to make a choice, Sienna. We can get you back to London tonight. Put you in protective custody. Or what? Or you can help us finish what Harrison started. Help us bring down the entire operation. But I warn you, if you choose to stay, your life will never be the same. I stared at the burner phone, thinking about the man I'd fallen in love with. The man who had lied about everything except his feelings for me. The man who was now risking his life to protect me and stop something much bigger and more dangerous than I could have imagined. The ceiling fan continued its monotonous squeak as I reached for the phone. Before I could touch it, the cafe's front doorbell jingled. Antoine's face transformed from calm to alarm in an instant. They found us. he whispered, reaching for something under his jacket. Quick, through the kitchen. But as I stood up, I heard a familiar voice that made my heart stop. A voice I thought I'd never hear again. Hello, Sienna, Blake said, stepping into the back room. I think it's time we had a chat about your husband. Blake looked different from how I remembered him at the wedding. Gone was the charming smile and easy manner. His eyes were hard, calculating, as he pulled up a chair and sat down, blocking the only exit. Antoine remained tensed beside me, his hand still beneath his jacket. You can relax, Antoine, Blake said smoothly. I came alone, and I'm only here to talk. Like you talked to Beatrice? I found myself saying, surprised by the steel in my own voice. A flicker of something, regret, shame, crossed Blake's face. Beatrice was collateral damage. I never meant for things to go that far. But your husband, the man you know as Harrison, he's the one who put her in danger, put you all in danger. By trying to stop criminals? The words came out before I could stop them. Blake leaned forward, his expression intense. Is that what they told you? That we're the bad guys? That Harrison's some kind of hero? He pulled out his phone, sliding it across the table to me. Take a look at these photos. The images showed Harrison, or Logan, or whoever he really was, at various locations over the past few years. In some, he was with people I didn't recognize. In others, he was clearly conducting surveillance. But the last photo made my blood run cold. Harrison, holding hands with a beautiful woman, looking at her the same way he used to look at me. That was 6 months ago, Blake said quietly, while he was engaged to you. Her name is Elena. She's the daughter of Victor Petrov, the man Harrison claims he's trying to bring down. But look at the date stamp, Sienna. Look at how he's looking at her. My hands trembled as I stared at the photo. 6 months ago, Harrison and I had been planning our wedding. He'd told me he was away on business trips. Had those trips been with her? You're trying to manipulate me, I said, but my voice wavered. Am I? Blake's voice was gentle now. Or am I showing you the truth about the man you married? Harrison isn't who you think he is. He's not even who his own agency thinks he is. He's been playing everyone. The agency, Petrov, you, me. There's a reason he took your money, Sienna. And it wasn't to protect you. Antoine shifted beside me. Don't listen to him. This is what he does. Twist the truth until you don't know what to believe. Really? Blake raised an eyebrow. Then explain this. He pulled out another phone, Harrison's phone, the one he'd been using at the airport. I found this after he ran. Check his messages with Elena. I shouldn't have looked. Every instinct told me not to, but I had to know. The messages went back months. They were intimate, loving. Plans for a future together. Plans that had nothing to do with any investigation. He's been working with Petrov all along, Blake continued. The agency investigation was his cover. He needed a legitimate wife to make his story believable. Someone with a clean background. Someone trusting. You were perfect. But Elena, she was his real target. Through her, he could get to Petrov's millions. The money he took from you? It's just the beginning. My mind raced back through every moment with Harrison. The late-night calls, the mysterious business trips, the way he'd insisted on handling all our finances. Had any of it been real? If what you're saying is true, I managed. Why are you telling me this? Why not go to the agency? Blake's expression darkened. Because Petrov's men are hunting both Harrison and me now. He discovered something about both of us. Something that could destroy everything. I need your help, Sienna. You're the only one who might be able to reach Harrison before it's too late. Too late for what? Elena's dead. Blake's words fell like stones in the quiet room. She was found yesterday in her Paris apartment, and Petrov thinks Harrison killed her. The ceiling fan continued its endless squeak as I processed this information. Elena, the woman from the photos, the woman Harrison apparently loved, was dead. And now I was caught in the middle of something I barely understood. What do you want from me? I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Help me find him, Blake said. He trusts you. He'll contact you. When he does, I need you to... A sudden commotion from the front of the cafe cut him off. Shouts in French, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Antoine moved with surprising speed, pulling me toward a hidden door behind a shelf. "Choose now, Sienna," Blake called after me. "Help me stop him, or become his next victim. But know this, nothing about your relationship was real. You were just part of his cover story." As Antoine led me through a narrow passage that smelled of damp and old spices, I clutched the burner phone he'd given me earlier. Harrison had lied about who he was. That much was clear. But Blake's story had holes, things that didn't quite add up. I thought about Harrison's last message. "Trust no one until I can reach you again." The sound of footsteps echoed behind us as we emerged into a dark alley. Antoine pushed me toward a waiting motorbike. "Go," he said urgently. "My friend will take you somewhere safe. But first, do you trust Harrison?" I looked back at the cafe, thinking about the photos, the messages, everything I'd just learned. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I trust that there's more to this story, and I need to hear it from him." The motorbike roared to life just as shouts erupted from the cafe's back entrance. As we sped away into the gathering darkness, I realized I'd made my choice. I was going to find Harrison, not to help Blake, but to uncover the truth, whatever it might be. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. "Elena isn't dead, but she will be if I don't get to her first. Still trust me?" The motorbike wound through the darkening streets of Grand Bay, the warm air heavy with the scent of sea salt and frangipani. My driver, a young woman who'd only identified herself as Marie, seemed to know exactly where she was going, taking turns and back alleys with practiced precision. We finally stopped at a small guest house tucked away in a residential area, its pink walls barely visible in the growing darkness. "Room 12, Marie said, handing me a key. "There's a laptop inside. Check your email." Sure enough, waiting in my inbox was a message from an address I didn't recognize, sent just minutes ago. "Sienna, I know you've spoken to Blake by now. I know about the photos, the messages, everything he showed you. Some of it's real. Most of it isn't. Elena is Viktor Petrov's daughter, yes. And yes, I got close to her, but not for the reasons Blake told you. Elena has been helping us gather evidence against her father for the past year. Those messages you saw? Part of our cover. The photos? Staged for Petrov's surveillance. But something went wrong. Elena discovered something in her father's files, something bigger than anything we'd anticipated. Then she disappeared. Blake told you she's dead because that's what Petrov wants everyone to believe. The truth is, she's hiding. And the only person who knows where is the one person I trusted more than anyone in the world. You. Check your wedding dress. D. My hands trembled as I read the email again. The wedding dress I'd packed so carefully, planning to wear it for our sunset photo shoot. The dress that was still in my luggage back at the resort. My phone buzzed. A message from Annabelle. "The men at the resort are gone. It's safe to go back. Whatever's in that dress, Sienna, it's what everyone's looking for." I thought back to the weeks before the wedding. Harrison had insisted on taking my dress for final alterations just 3 days before the ceremony. Had Elena hidden something in it then? "I can take you back," Marie said quietly from the doorway. "But first, you should see this." She handed me a tablet. On it was a video dated 2 days ago. Security footage from what looked like a hotel lobby. Elena walked through the frame, very much alive, carrying a small red bag. Behind her, partially hidden behind a newspaper, was Blake. "He lied about not knowing where she is," Marie said. "The question is, why?" My mind raced. If Blake had lied about Elena's death, what else had he lied about? I pulled out the burner phone Antoine had given me and dialed the only number saved in it. Harrison answered on the first ring. "Sienna." His voice was strained, exhausted. "I'm so sorry. For everything. But I need you to listen carefully. Elena had evidence of something massive. Money laundering, human trafficking, political assassinations, all connected to her father, but also connected to people much more powerful. People inside our own agency." "Blake?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "He was my mentor, Sienna, the man who recruited me. Finding out he was corrupt, it nearly destroyed me. When Elena discovered his involvement, we knew we had to act fast. But we needed someone above suspicion to help us. Someone new. Someone they wouldn't be watching. Me, I whispered. Our whole relationship. Was it all just part of the plan? There was a long pause. When Harrison spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. The plan was to meet you, use your clean background to help establish my cover. What wasn't part of the plan was falling in love with you. Really falling in love. That's why I couldn't go through with it. Couldn't risk your life by involving you further. But you already had, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. By marrying me. By making me part of this. I know. And when I realized that, I tried to protect you the only way I could think of. By running. Making it look like a simple case of fraud. If Blake thought you were just another victim, he wouldn't see me as a threat, I finished. But something changed, didn't it? That's why he came to find me. Elena contacted him, Harrison said grimly. Tried to make a deal. But Blake, he doesn't make deals. He eliminates problems. When he couldn't find her, he must have realized that I might know something, I said. But Harrison, I don't. I don't know anything. Yes, you do, Sienna. You just don't know you know it. Think. The week before the wedding, when I was acting strange, when I kept taking calls in private, what did you see? What did you hear? I closed my eyes, thinking back. Harrison had been distracted. Yes. There had been hushed conversations. And then, Elena came to the house, I said slowly, when you were in the shower. She said she was dropping off wedding papers, but she went to my closet, to my dress. What else, Sienna? Think carefully. She was crying, I remembered suddenly. Not sad crying, scared crying. She hugged me before she left and whispered something. I thought she said, take care of him. But that wasn't it, was it? What did she really say, Sienna? The memory hit me like a thunderbolt. Take care. 3 words, not a sentence. She was telling me about a safe in Lake Geneva. The dress? There's a key sewn into it, isn't there? Not a key, Harrison said quietly. The code, written on a microchip sewn into the hem. Elena split the evidence into 3 parts. The physical documents are in the safe. The access codes are in your dress. And the safe's location is with Elena, I finished. That's why Blake couldn't just kill her. He needs all 3 pieces. Suddenly, Marie burst into the room. We need to go, now. Someone just reported your location to Petrov's men. As I grabbed my purse, Harrison's voice became urgent. Sienna, listen to me. I can't protect you anymore. But I know you. You're stronger than anyone realizes. Smarter. The night I met you, you solved that impossible riddle at the charity gala. The one even Blake couldn't figure out. That's when I knew. Knew what? That if anyone could unravel this whole thing, it would be you. The question is, are you willing to try? Through the window, I could see headlights approaching. Marie was already starting the motorbike. I had seconds to decide. Tell me what to do, I said. Find Elena, Harrison replied. But Sienna, don't trust anything else I tell you. From now on, trust only yourself. The line went dead as the first black SUV pulled up outside the guest house. As Marie and I slipped out the back, I realized that my honeymoon hadn't just been ruined. It had been transformed into something else entirely. A mission I never wanted, but one I now had to complete. Not for Harrison, not for Elena, but for myself, and for the truth I deserved to know. The resort's security cameras had been disabled. Marie's doing, she'd assured me, as we slipped back onto the property through a service entrance. My heart pounded as we approached my room, but the hallway was mercifully empty. The lock clicked open, and I stepped inside. My luggage was exactly where I'd left it, but something felt off. The room had been searched, professionally, methodically. Everything was in place, but slightly wrong, like a photo taken from a slightly different angle. They were looking for the dress, Marie whispered, standing guard at the door. I unzipped the garment bag with trembling fingers. The wedding dress, ivory silk and delicate lace, looked innocent enough. But as I ran my hands along the hem, I felt it, a barely perceptible thickness in one small section. We need to get it out, I said, reaching for the scissors from my toiletry kit. No time, Marie responded urgently. Someone's coming. We need to move. Now. I shoved the dress back in its bag and followed her out, my mind racing. The hem, the microchip, Elena's terrified face that day in my closet. It all meant something, but what? We made it to the hotel's beach entrance just as I heard familiar voices in the lobby. Blake, speaking to the hotel staff. My phone buzzed. Another message from Harrison. The charity gala where we met. It wasn't a coincidence. You were chosen. Your background in cryptography. Your work with that tech startup before it folded. Blake thought you were perfect. Just another failed entrepreneur who'd make a believable victim. But I saw something else in you that night. The way you solved that riddle. You saw patterns nobody else could see. I remembered that night clearly now. The riddle had been part of a fundraising game. Something about sequences and codes. I'd solved it almost immediately, while the other guests had struggled for hours. Marie, I said suddenly, I need paper and pen. Now. She handed me a small notebook from her pocket. My hands shook as I wrote out what I remembered of Elena's behavior that day in my closet. 3 words. Take. Care. But it wasn't just the words. It was how she'd said them. The pauses. The emphasis. It's not directions to a safe, I muttered, scribbling frantically. It's a cipher key. The pattern in the hem. It's not just a code, it's part of a sequence. Marie looked confused, but I was already pulling out my phone, Googling the charity gala from a year ago. The riddle had been about pattern recognition in seemingly random sequences. And now, looking at my wedding dress, I realized the decorative pattern in the lace wasn't just decorative. Elena didn't hide a microchip in my dress, I said, the realization hitting me like a wave. She hid the pattern in the lace itself. The whole dress is the code. My phone buzzed again. Annabelle this time. Sienna, whatever you've figured out, keep it to yourself. Harrison's been compromised. They have him. Almost simultaneously, another message appeared. This one from Harrison's number. Meet me at the marina. Slip 23. Come alone. It's a trap, Marie said quietly. Of course it is, I replied, still studying the dress's hem. But maybe that's exactly where we need to be. I thought about everything I knew. Elena's message, the pattern in the lace, the charity gala riddle, Harrison's insistence that I trust only myself, pieces of a puzzle that had seemed random, but now... Marie, does that laptop in the guest house have a camera? She nodded. Good, because I need to photograph every inch of this dress. And then I need you to help me set a trap of our own. For who? She asked. Blake? Petrov's men? I thought about Harrison's last message, about not trusting anything else he told me, about trusting only myself. And suddenly, I knew. For everyone, I said, because there's something nobody's considered. Not Blake, not Petrov, not even Harrison. What's that? I looked at the dress, at the intricate pattern that held secrets within secrets. That maybe Elena chose me for a reason. That maybe she knew exactly what she was doing when she came to my closet that day. Because the one thing nobody would expect was for her to trust the bride. Marie finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. I nodded, my mind already racing ahead to what we needed to do next. The marina message is obviously a trap, so let's spring it. But first, I pulled out the burner phone Antoine had given me and dialed a number I'd memorized from the charity gala guest list. A number I'd seen Elena call repeatedly in the security footage Marie had shown me. A woman's voice answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? Elena? This is Sienna, and I think I've figured out what you were trying to tell me about the pattern. There was a long pause. Then, took you long enough. Sister-in-law. The sunset painted the marina in shades of gold and purple as I walked toward slip 23, my wedding dress carefully folded in my arms. Elena's words still echoed in my mind from our brief conversation. I chose you the moment Harrison told me about you, she'd said. A woman who built a security encryption company from nothing, who lost everything when her partner stole her patents, who still managed to smile, to trust, to love again. I knew you'd understand. Now, as I approached the meeting point, I understood more than ever. The pattern in the lace wasn't just a code. It was my code. The same encryption algorithm I developed years ago, before my business partner stripped it away from me. Elena hadn't just hidden information in my wedding dress. She'd hidden it in a way that only I could truly understand. I saw Harrison first, standing on the deck of a sleek yacht. His hands were bound, and Blake stood behind him, no longer bothering to hide his true nature. Two other men, Petrov's security, I assumed, watched from nearby. "Sienna," Blake called out, his voice carrying across the water. "I'm glad you decided to be reasonable. Come aboard, slowly." I clutched the dress tighter, taking careful steps onto the boat. Up close, I could see the bruises on Harrison's face, the way he held himself as if protecting injured ribs. Our eyes met, and I saw something there. Not fear, but anticipation. "The dress," Blake said, holding out his hand. "First, let me see Elena's proof," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I know she's alive. I know about the safe in Geneva. Show me she's okay, and you can have the dress." Blake smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're in no position to negotiate." "Actually," came a voice from behind me. "She is." Elena stepped onto the boat, followed by Marie and two men I didn't recognize. But Harrison clearly did. His eyes widened in recognition. "Internal affairs," Blake said quietly. "You've been busy, Elena." "For years," she replied. "Ever since I discovered you were using my father's network for your own operations. Trading information, betraying agents, arranging accidents for anyone who got too close." "And Harrison?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Figured it out 6 months ago," Elena said. "We needed proof, but Blake was too careful. Then we learned about his pattern, how he used couples, manipulated relationships to create perfect covers. When he suggested using you, you saw an opportunity," I finished. Blake laughed, but there was an edge of desperation to it. "Touching story, but you have no proof, nothing that would stand up in court." I unfolded the wedding dress carefully. "Actually, we do. You see, Elena didn't just hide information in this dress. She hid proof of what you made her do 3 years ago in Manchester, with Beatrice." Blake's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "The real reason you're so interested in this dress," I continued, "isn't the banking information or the safe codes. It's the proof that you forced Elena to help you destroy Beatrice's life, to make her story less credible when she started asking questions about her husband's death. The funeral photos," Elena said quietly, "the ones that show you were there, watching, making sure everything went according to plan. They're woven into the lace pattern, along with every other piece of evidence I've gathered over the years, encoded using Sienna's own encryption algorithm, the one you helped her partner steal, thinking you could use it for your own operations." Harrison spoke for the first time, his voice rough. "You should have done better research, Blake. Should have realized why Sienna's encryption was so valuable, why every intelligence agency in the world wanted it." "Because it's unbreakable," I said, feeling a surge of pride mixed with old pain. "Even after my partner stole it, he could never fully understand how it worked. But I do. I always did." "You really think I won't just take it?" Blake's hand moved toward his jacket. "Already taken care of," Marie said, holding up her phone. "The pattern has been photographed and uploaded. If anything happens to any of us, it goes public. All of it." I saw the moment Blake realized it was over. The subtle shift in his stance, the flicker of defeat in his eyes. The internal affairs agents moved forward smoothly, professionally. "Sienna," Harrison said softly as they led Blake away. "I'm so sorry. For lying, for leaving you at the airport, for all of it." I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd fallen in love with. The man who had lied about everything except his feelings. The man who had tried to protect me by pushing me away. "You know," I said, "most couples have to wait years to face their first real crisis. We managed it in less than 24 hours of marriage." "Some honeymoon," he replied, a ghost of his old smile appearing. Elena stepped forward. "You have every right to walk away, Sienna. To start fresh, forget all of this." I looked down at my wedding dress, at the pattern that had helped bring down a corrupt agent and expose an international conspiracy, at the symbol of a marriage that had begun with lies but had somehow led to truth. "Actually," I said, "I have a different idea." But before I could continue, a shot rang out across the marina. Harrison's eyes widened in shock as he looked down at his chest, where a red stain was beginning to spread. Time seemed to slow as Harrison stumbled backward. I dropped the wedding dress and lunged forward, catching him before he hit the deck. Behind us, I heard shouts, running footsteps, and another shot, this one from Marie's direction. Through the chaos, I registered Elena's voice shouting, "Blake's man in the tower! Get him!" "Stay with me," I whispered to Harrison, pressing my hands against his wound. His blood was warm against my fingers, and his breathing was shallow but steady. "You don't get to leave me again. Not like this." "B wouldn't dream of it," he managed, his attempt at a smile turning into a grimace. Though I have to admit, this wasn't quite the honeymoon I had in mind. The next few hours passed in a blur of ambulances, police statements, and hospital corridors. The shooter had been one of Blake's loyal operatives, positioned as a backup plan. Marie's quick response had prevented him from getting off a fatal shot. The bullet had missed Harrison's vital organs, though he'd lost a lot of blood. As I sat in the hospital waiting room, still wearing my blood-stained clothes, Elena brought me a coffee and sat down beside me. "He's going to be okay," she said softly. "The doctors are confident." I nodded, staring into the dark liquid. "Did you always know it would end like this?" "Not like this exactly," she admitted. "But I knew it would end. Blake had too many enemies, too many loose ends. That's why I needed you, someone outside the game, someone who could see patterns others missed." "Like the pattern in my dress?" I asked, thinking of the intricate lace design that had carried so much hidden information. "That was brilliant, wasn't it?" Elena smiled. "Using your own encryption method, the one Blake helped steal from you years ago. The ultimate irony. He spent years trying to crack your algorithm, never realizing the key was in understanding how you think, not just the code itself." I thought about the past year, about falling in love with Harrison, about all the lies and truths that had brought us to this moment. What happens now? Blake will face charges, serious ones. The evidence in your dress pattern, combined with what we already had, he'll never see freedom again. As for Harrison, she paused. "That's up to you." The door opened, and a doctor emerged. "Mrs. Walker, your husband is asking for you." I found Harrison propped up in bed, pale but alert. The sight of him, alive, real, here, brought tears to my eyes. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey yourself." I sat on the edge of his bed, taking his hand. "You know, when I imagined our first day as a married couple, I pictured more champagne and fewer gunshot wounds." He squeezed my hand. "Sienna, I know I have no right to ask for another chance. What I did to you, leaving you at the airport, lying about who I was. You lied about what you were." I corrected him. "Not who you were. The man I fell in love with. The one who makes terrible puns when he's nervous, who burns every attempt at cooking pasta, who reads detective novels and always guesses the ending wrong. That man was real." "Yes," he said quietly. "That part was always real." "Then maybe," I said, "we start there. No more lies, no more hidden agendas. Just us, figuring out what comes next." "What about your company?" he asked. "Now that Blake's role in stealing your encryption algorithm is exposed, you could get everything back." I thought about it. About the years I'd spent angry over losing my company, my patents, my work. "Maybe," I said slowly, "it's time to build something new instead. Something better. Together?" The hope in his voice was unmistakable. "On one condition," I said, trying to keep my face serious. "We get a do-over on the honeymoon, somewhere quiet this time. No spies, no conspiracies, no encrypted wedding dresses." "Deal," he smiled, then winced as the movement pulled at his stitches. "Though I have to say, you handled your first international conspiracy pretty well. Let's make it our last," I suggested, leaning forward to kiss him gently. 2 weeks later, we stood on a small private beach in the Seychelles. I wore a simple sundress, thoroughly checked for hidden codes or microchips, and Harrison wore loose linen pants rolled up at the ankles as we walked along the shore. His wound was healing well, and each day brought more of his strength back. Elena had returned to her work, helping other agents expose corruption while rebuilding her relationship with her father, who had agreed to cooperate with authorities after learning of Blake's betrayal. Marie had become a close friend, though she still wouldn't tell me who she really worked for. As the sun set over the ocean, Harrison pulled me close. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the fear, the truth, the strength I'd found in myself. "Just one," I said. "What's that?" "I really liked that wedding dress." He laughed, then turned serious. "You know, most people would have run away from all this. Would have decided it was too much drama, too many lies." I watched the waves roll in, thinking about patterns, about how life sometimes takes the most unexpected routes to get us exactly where we need to be. "Maybe," I said. "But then again, most love stories don't start with being abandoned at the airport, and most don't end with international conspiracies and gunshot wounds," he added. "No," I agreed, leaning into him as the last rays of sun painted the sky in brilliant colors. But then again, we were never going to be most people's kind of love story. Later that night, as we lay in our beachfront villa, I received one last text from Elena. "Looking for a partner in my new security consulting firm? Could use someone who knows how to crack impossible codes, and maybe teach others how to do the same." I showed the message to Harrison, who smiled. "What do you think?" I thought about patterns again, about how sometimes the worst moments in our lives lead us to exactly where we need to be, about how losing my company had led me to that charity gala, to Harrison, to this moment. "I think," I said, "that sometimes the best new beginnings come from the most unexpected endings." Harrison pulled me closer, and I felt his smile against my hair. Outside, the waves continued their eternal rhythm, and somewhere in a Swiss bank, a safe held secrets that would never need to be revealed. But the biggest secret, the one about how love can survive lies, betrayal, and even gunshot wounds, that one I would keep forever. After all, some patterns are meant to be broken, and some are meant to be transformed into something new entirely. Our love story might have started with an abandonment, but it had become something else, something stronger, truer, and far more interesting than any fairy tale ending could ever be.